Hello, St. Thomas Academy, and welcome to the Cadet Football Show. My name is Mike Maxwell. I'm your host, and to my left, as always, is head football coach Dan O'Brien. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. We're here talking a little cadet football. So, Coach, congratulations on what I would term a pretty dominating win last week, 49-3 over Tartan. Let us know what your thoughts are on the game.
Well, I thought it was a little bit of a tale of two halves, Mike. I thought in the first half we had a lot of different things that we needed to clean up, we need to get better at. We had some conversation at halftime, and as I'm sure we'll talk about today, we had some personnel changes at halftime as well.
Right.
So I thought it was a tale of two halves. It's great to get out of there with the win that we did. We're a little bit banged up, so we're able to get a look at some other kids, which is always good.
Yep.
Prepare some kids in case we need them down the stretch. But at the end of the day, it was a win for us, and they're hard to get. So I'm pleased and happy for those kids, especially the seniors, Mike. They were able to finish their senior 8-0, and there's not a lot of teams here at St. Thomas that can say that was part of their senior year.
Absolutely. So your defense obviously was pretty outstanding. You know, anytime you can hold a team to 3 points, is your odds of winning are generally pretty good. What does the defense need to do to continue to improve as you get into the playoffs here?
Well, I think there's things that we can do at all 3 levels. Up front, I think we can do a better job with reads, and the same thing with our linebackers and defensive backs as well. So at each level, there's some things we can do there. We need to continue to tackle better. I thought we did tackle better this game versus the Apple Valley game the week before that. So I was pleased with that. We're still fitting guys in, especially in the secondary.
Yeah.
We're building some depth there. We haven't had Mark Rogalski all year, and hopefully it looks like we may get him back this week.
Okay.
So he's an important piece to the puzzle on the back end. And we had a freshman that we started to play a little bit, so we need to get him up to speed. And so there's plenty for us to work on. But the game is simple enough. It comes down from a defensive standpoint. It is lining up right. Knowing what your assignment is, and then making the tackle when you're called on to make a tackle.
Right, exactly. So switching to offense, obviously, again, 49 points. You looked pretty good there. And you did so despite having a few, you mentioned it before, personnel challenges, and in particular at quarterback. So Max Sims on the third offensive play, second series, but third offensive play of the game, goes down with a bit of an injury. Can you give us an update on Max and whether he'll play this weekend?
Right, yeah. The good news is, to start out with, he'll play this weekend. He did take a shot right underneath the chin, with the crown of the helmet.
Yep.
From one of the Tartan players. It was flagged, and it should have been flagged.
Yep.
But Max was a little bit foggy from the hit, and we decided to go, to take caution with it.
Yep.
And Cole, our trainer, said, "Hey, let's take him out. Let's hold him out. We'll test him." So we came back. He tested on Monday. He tested fine. He'll be okay. So he's back practicing this week. But we didn't have him from the third play of the game on.
Right.
So as you mentioned, we had to do some different things. Chase Young came in and did a fantastic job finishing out the half.
Yeah.
There's a Minnesota State High School League rule, Mike, that says you can only play 6 quarters in a week.
Okay.
And Chase had played 4 quarters in the JV game on Monday, and it was 2 days later on Wednesday. So we didn't have any option.
So that explains his disappearance from the game in the second half. Okay, great.
He did fantastic.
Yep.
With Noah's being out, he's out with the broken hand still. Noah Erickson.
Yep.
He and Max, of course, were our first 2 quarterbacks for the year, and Chase was our 3rd quarterback. Well, now we're out Noah, we're out Max, and Chase has run out of quarters. So our offensive guys at halftime, they did a fantastic job. And we had been looking at the Wildcat. We had looked at with Savion and with Love to put those guys in a shotgun formation and just run those guys. We've had other teams that have done that to us in the past, and I kind of like it.
Yeah.
So we had talked earlier in the year about putting it in. We hadn't practiced it yet, so we went behind the shed at halftime where nobody could see us, and we started snapping the ball shotgun back to the running backs, and we still ran our base run plays that we always run.
Right.
And as you saw, it was pretty successful. I think the first series we did, Love scored in 2 plays.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. I'll just tell you this: you couldn't tell that you hadn't practiced it because
well,
it looked like it was part of the game plan, and and just was forced into being used because you were down quarterbacks. So nice job there, and hats off to both Love and Savion for being able to step into that and do it without really missing a beat. So that's fun to see.
Yeah, and you know what? The kids really enjoyed it. They had fun with it, and we did let Love throw a pass off of it. He threw a pass to Michael Staffseth and scored a touchdown on it, which was great for both of them. So Love, of course, now thinks he should be a quarterback. He's 1 for 1 with a touchdown, so he thinks he's better than the other guys at quarterback. So,
right.
But I think Mike will keep him where he's at.
I think so. I would agree with that. I think I was watching the game on Cadet broadcasts, and I think the guys in the booth were as excited about it as anybody. They were pretty giddy about the fact that Love not only was running the ball out of the Wildcat, but able to throw a touchdown pass. So that was fun to see. And then you had your number one wide receiver step in and kind of do a little mop-up duty. Has Luke Dobbs played quarterback before, or did he just raise his hand and volunteer?
Great question. It's a little bit of both on that. When Noah went down with his hand, I said, hey, what are we going to do if we were to lose Max? We still have to have a backup. So we had prepped him a little bit in practice. He played as a freshman. He was a quarterback when he came in, and we switched him his sophomore year to wide receiver because as athletic as he is, and Max is athletic, and say, hey, we need both of those guys on the field at the same time. Yeah. So we moved Luke, and obviously he's done a fantastic job.
Yep.
But he had played a little bit, and I said, hey, let's throw him in there. We at least have to have a guy that can get us out of a game. Sure. So we got him up to speed, and of course he knows all the plays. Right. He doesn't know them quite from the quarterback position yet, but we got him to the point where, hey, he can turn around, he can hand off, he can run some base pass plays, and we were able to go ahead and use him towards the end of the game when we just wanted to run the clock out and get out of there.
Yep, and actually got a running touchdown out of the deal too. So good for him. So let's move over to the players of the game. So let's start with offense.
Our offensive player of the game was Luke Dobbs.
Right.
He had a fantastic night.
Sure did.
And basically he filled in some spots where he wasn't used to playing those spots, and did a nice job. So he was our offensive player of the game.
Awesome. Well, and he's had a great year. So
yeah,
well deserving. Defense.
Jackson Sersioglu takes that one again.
Yeah.
He was nicked up the week before. We didn't play him very much in that Apple Valley game, so he was able to come back, and he played a nice game for us. He's our quarterback out there with those 7 guys up front with him, and gosh, he's been doing it for 3 years, and he was our stat leader and our defensive player of the game.
Yeah, again, another guy having a fantastic season. So how about on special teams?
Special teams, Anthony Bickford. He's doing some nice job returning the ball. He had a real nice couple nice kick returns, and he does a great job back there with the punt return. So Anthony Bickford, I think it's maybe his second or third time he's been our special teams player of the game.
Yeah, and he had a couple of difficult punts to field as well. So did a nice job under tough situations. So, and then our favorite one, the grinder.
Grinder, of course. Our grinder this week is George Stevikin. George Stevikin was not feeling well. I had no idea, but he wasn't feeling well before the game. I looked over, and all of a sudden I saw his head over a trash can, and he was getting rid of his lunch or breakfast or whatever it was. Right. But I said, hey, George, you okay? You don't need to. If you're not feeling well, let's not play. Good coach, I'm playing. I want to play. Right. So I think he maybe threw up 4 or 5 times throughout the course of the game, and he played every snap that he was called on to play, and that's tough. That's toughness. That's a mental mindset, and so George was our grinder for the week.
George and I have got a lot in common. Both long snappers, defensive backs, and I also played in a game where I wasn't feeling so good. So I've got a whole new level of respect for George. So that's awesome. All right, well. The win brings you to 8-0, another undefeated regular season. Again, you mentioned it before. Not many seniors can say that. Although you've got 4 of your 5 teams that can make that claim. You've only lost 1 regular season game in the 5 years. What is there one thing in particular, or a couple things in particular that you can point to that can attribute to that kind of success?
Gosh, it would be hard, Mike, for me to just say 1 or 2 things. I think it all starts at the top. I get great administrative support from Kelby, from Reed, and from the ADs before Reed, and from the headmasters before Kelby, have been fantastic to our staff and our program. I would also tell you that the staff is incredibly important to be successful. We have very little turnover in our staff, and of course the kids. I take my hat off to the kids. We get great kids and we get great parent support. I ask a lot of them. I'm asking for them in the summertime. I'm asking for them early in the mornings, and I know a lot of times, especially with the younger kids, the parents have to drive them at 6 or 6:15 or 6:30 in the morning, and that's not fun. Nobody wants to do that. But if we're going to be good, if we're going to be special at anything, you have to outwork other people, and that's what it takes. So those are the things that come to mind. The players, the hard work, the summer program is incredibly important. Our strength and conditioning piece with Coach Rozga. There's lots of different pieces, Mike. I could never just get it down to one or two, but those are the things that come to mind right away. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. That's what I was looking for, and I think you're right across the board there. So I know you don't like to look too far down the road, and I don't either. But are there any concerns that you have about this team's ability to make a deep run in the playoffs?
Biggest thing right now is health. Okay. We've got a bunch of kids that are nicked up, and I think everybody does this time of year. But we need to stay healthy. Particularly the offensive line and the defensive line. Everything for us starts up front, so we need to be healthy. That would be number one. Number two, we need to stay focused in our practice and in our preparation. And so far, that piece has gone well. And I keep telling the kids, it's one practice, one game, 1 week at a time. We don't look past anybody. And a great example of looking past somebody, Mike, was last night. Hastings and Two Rivers. Hastings a couple of weeks back beat them 42-6, and last night in the playoffs, Two Rivers beats Hastings. So it can happen. It can happen. It happens at every level, every single week. So that will be incredibly important. And you know what? You also have to have a little bit of luck. When two good teams play, you have to have some luck. And those are the things that probably concern me the most. Hey, number one, we got to stay healthy. Number two, we got to stay locked in on what we're doing. And three, we got to get a little bit of luck along the way.
Yeah, good. So let's talk about your next opponent. You play Saturday here, 1 o'clock. It's a familiar opponent in Apple Valley. They come back to Gerry Brown Stadium. They've got a 4-5 record at this stage after beating Bloomington Jefferson the other night in a close matchup. Do you stick to the same game plan that you had a couple of weeks ago when you beat them, or do you tweak things a little bit?
Oh, we'll certainly tweak it a little bit because they're going through the film just like we're going through the film. So we'll add a couple of tweaks to it. There were some things that they did offensively that we had talked about a couple of weeks back that they did a really good job against us with. So obviously we've got to prepare for the plays that they hurt us with and that we expect to see again. So we'll prepare that way. We'll put a wrinkle or two on offensively and another wrinkle or two and maybe a different blitz in with our defensive guys just to kind of change things up a little bit. Their base plays, I think, will stay the same. We had a chance to watch them last night against Jefferson, and they were running the same plays against Jefferson that they ran against us a couple of weeks ago. So I would expect the same, with a wrinkle or two, of course. But no, we'll pretty much prepare for what we did, but we'll add a wrinkle or two with on each side of the ball.
Got it. Okay, that sounds good. So you kind of alluded to it before, with facing a team. There's no guarantees. You still got to play the game. How do you and your coaching staff keep the boys focused in, or not overlooking a team that they beat pretty badly, 42-7 just a couple of weeks ago?
Well, we give them examples of what happens. We give them examples of last night. They know the kids from Two Rivers. Half of those guys are friends with a bunch of those guys on that team. They grew up playing against each other. So, they know what can happen, and I can give them an example of a college team every single week. I can give them an example of an NFL team every single week. And we focus hard on practice. Hey, it's one rep, one play, 1 day, 1 week. And now it's if you don't perform well on that week, you're going to put your stuff away, and these kids have worked way too hard to put their stuff away in the section semifinals.
Agreed. All right, well, Coach, thanks for talking a little Cadet football with me today. Appreciate your time. Good luck on Saturday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. So your Cadet football team will take on the Apple Valley Eagles on Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. The game will be played here at St. Thomas Academy in Gerry Brown Stadium. Tickets can be purchased online, and we'll add the link below so you can get those ahead of time. If you are unable to make it but want to watch it live, you can do so at cadetbroadcast.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week, and go Cadets.